I was reflecting on yesterday's video and I was like, man, I should have spoken about how I felt or how I'm feeling currently, just because I did mention I would be making my YouTube channel more like diary, like a small diary, video diary. But yeah, so I'm gonna dive into what has been going on. As you guys know, I've been living here in the suburbs. I moved from New York City. I was born and bred there, and I can say that it's had its challenges. Without question, I've had my moments encountering Karens, for example, or I've had my moments encountering racist white, not only women but men. And I, I feel like that is one of the reasons I navigate with caution when moving around the white community. I'm going to just keep it honest and real. I do find that most of the time they've showcased ignorance, racism, and I know that that's not only within, the white community that exists. And I've mentioned as well that within our communities of color, there's a lot of colorism, racism, a lot of ugliness, right? And that's something that I really want to tackle here, because I do believe in the unity of the Black and brown community. So with that being said, I've been working currently at a hospital here where I'm at. I'm no longer in New York City. I'm in a different state, not too far from New York City though. So I'll say that much. And this hospital actually had reviews on Glassdoor, or was it Indeed? One of those platforms, and there was mentions of racism, and I was just like, okay, I'll give it benefit of a doubt. Not surprising. I've experienced or I've seen a lot of ignorance and racism showcased where I work. Not even only the white staff that are there, to be honest, because I don't really interact with them very much. Like, my colleagues are for the most part women of color, especially of Hispanic ancestry, and I've seen a lot of anti-Blackness, which is something I mentioned in a prior video. So I've been so discouraged because I've heard not only, these rants from my colleagues where it's like, oh, these right off the bat, like when I came into this role, it was like, these people love to lie. Mind you, we're serving primarily like Hispanic immigrant like communities that are often undocumented. So to me, to generalize regarding a minority community that already experiences a lot of racism, a lot of backlash, and this applies to any community of color, it's always mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling that within our own communities, just because, let's say, you may be a citizen, you may have been born here, you may, be established here. I've always found there to be a disconnect where it's just like, your parents or you, if you didn't have your citizenship, would be in a similar position. And I understand that we go through racism and colorism, and unfortunately all these isms that exist within our own community, especially when it concerns women. It doesn't make the situation better when we're promoting it further, right? Like, or when we're just going or spewing racist rhetoric that I find it mirrors so closely, if not mirrors it fully, the way in which the white community, right, those that have colonized these lands, speak. And it's just like, why, once again, are you trying to be like them? Are you trying to be like something you're not? And are you trying to prove that you are worthy just because you have your step up? Like, it's always been so saddening to see this within our communities. And, it goes beyond that, because I feel like I do try to have grace with the communities of color, but it's hard to navigate because, like, we should know better, right? And naturally there is a lot of racism that comes from the white community that works within the hospital, but fortunately enough, I don't really interact with them that much. Nonetheless, like, for example, I was in the restroom and this young lady engaged me in a conversation, and she works in the reception end, And I assume her colleagues, who I can only obviously assume is white due to the fact that she specifically mentioned and stated, oh, people of color do not pay their bills. That was absolutely ludicrous to me. And it's like, what kind of environment? And I think I mentioned this in the previous video as well. I find that I am in an environment, and something I've also expressed to my partner, like this place, it almost seems like people are brain dead. And it's interesting because when I've looked online to understand like the dynamics of the suburbs as someone that wasn't born and raised in the suburbs, one thing I noticed is that a lot of people, and I've noticed this even in the past when attending college, living in the suburbs very briefly, and also being in the suburbs, I've noticed a lot of people in suburban areas have more conservative values and views. And it was interesting to see someone say, people in these areas are listening and watching too much Fox News, or like fear-mongering news. And it's a given. Like I can definitely see that. Like I feel like people here, not only do they stay at home from the looks of it, because I really ever rarely see someone in the neighborhood walking, for example. Like maybe they're walking their dog, but it's not like they're playing, they're engaging. And it's interesting because when I think about it and compare it to like communities of color, I feel like we're big on like engaging with one another. We're big on community. We're big on like hanging out with people, like it being lively. But it's almost like these areas are dead. Not only are these areas dead, like in terms of like movement or seeing people, seeing life, but it's like they're dead inside. It almost like goes hand in hand and coincides, and I'm just like, okay, it's a reflection, right? What I'm seeing is also what I hear, what I've understood. And it also seems like people are just so miserable. And someone did say that, like, you know, when I left a red-leaning state or city, they specifically said city, they said it was so refreshing because they said it was like these people are just miserable. And I would not doubt that. Like there is no reason to try to put other people down. And I find that that's one thing I've noticed. So much chatter, and it's always, you know, oh, X, Y, and Z. It's like nonstop. Like we're like, come on, let's just get into the duties of this job. Let's stop always trying to, and also gravitate towards stereotypes that are not conducive. And I say this all the time, they're not conducive to oneself as well. When you naturally are spewing a lot of these stereotypes and beliefs about especially communities of color, that only can backfire, right? Because you are a person of color as well. So it's always been like, is there a disconnect there? What is happening? Like you do understand that just because, let's say the other, it might be someone from another community of color, doesn't mean that at the end of the day individuals will also not label your community. These stereotypes, especially detrimental and negative stereotypes about communities, are enforced because people continue to propel them, right? They're continuously saying them, spewing them, and then lo and behold, your community is also stereotyped. And when it's, you know, it comes down to negative stereotypes, well, one doesn't want to claim them, but it's like, but you can easily or effortlessly do that for another community of color. So, you know, it's a sad thing. It's something that I feel like people don't take a moment to, hey, like, what am I doing? What am I saying that is affecting not only other communities of color, which I should feel are my brothers and sisters, especially in humanity, especially since we've had similar journeys, but it's also like, how is it also coming back to myself? And I just find that, you know, And I'm just, oh my, do I want to stay here? And this is a problem that I've had. I'm like, I will not tolerate. And something I did when I got here, I don't know if I mentioned this in previous videos. I think I did. I mentioned how I was working at a school, and this was my first job when I moved here. And I was just like, you know, they're not paying me enough to be dealing with this. And I feel like it's baggage. It's detrimental to my own health and well-being. Mind you, these opportunities, and I feel like every opportunity I go to, whether that be extremely competitive pay or not so competitive pay, but it's just more convenient, it's more like they want someone that's bilingual. They want someone that represents the community that they're serving, or the community that is essentially funding. Like, these individuals are providing funds, government funds, right? Or funding in any possible way. Like, there is assistance from the government often, and that money is put forth into, right, whatever it is, hospital, whatever other entity it is. They love when it's these communities. We want to serve these communities, because we can benefit and we can profit from it. I've seen what's been going on. I know what's been going on for a little too long now. Those that are privileged, the white community, naturally run these organizations, or the ones in higher or positions, better paying positions, right? They're the ones that are the CEOs often, and they will gladly serve communities of color because more people equates to more money. And they have no problem taking one's money, right, when it benefits, however that may come to them. But as soon as it comes down to respecting those very individuals, oh, no, that's not my duty. That's not my duty. Excuse me. So I know what you're doing in terms of organization-wise and entity-wise and whatever agency, and I no longer am willing to tolerate that behavior, given the fact that you want to hire me, someone that looks like the very people that you're essentially taking the money from, or so willingly doing so, and you want me to be that asset, right? There's the term, the token, right? The token individual, the token person of color, for a very reason. It's just like to make it almost seem like it's a diverse environment, but at the root of it all, it's not really inclusive. It's not welcoming to communities of color. So yeah, for me, I'm just like, I am up to here with tolerating that nonsense, that I have no question or reservations that when I go into a position and I notice or I come across an uncomfortable situation, I'm no longer willing. My energy, effort, my skill sets are reserved for those that will respect me and will honor their commitment to serving all people. So, and it's so sad, because most of the agencies and organizations that actually embody that are those that are filled with people of color and management that is people of color. So unfortunately, it's also created a bias in me. Like, I cannot work for white organizations or white-led entities because I don't trust that they have my better interests, and that's the reality. So I'm in a position where, like, okay, do I want to leave? Do I want to leave? And it's crazy because I had also another opportunity, paid 50% more, but longer commute. It was more provisional because it was government related. And I'm just like, okay, did I fumble the bag? Because when all is said and done, here I am putting this position or this opportunity that I was like, oh yeah, I'm leaning into it. But all of a sudden I'm having a moment of realization, like, these individuals, all of these individuals that they're hiring aren't about serving everyone. They are selectively serving, whether they know it or not, or believe it or not. They only care to serve and uphold. And this is a thing. This is what where I'm just like, that's not healthcare. That's not healthcare, because healthcare is supposed to improve the lives of individuals, all individuals. And healthcare begins with how we treat people. So if you're having biases and stereotypes, that's telling me enough that you do not care about the betterment or the wellness of that very individual just because they look different. Yeah, so with that being said, it's been such a crazy journey being here in this location. And it's interesting because I was really getting into the groove of it. I was like, I really like that it's quiet and relaxing. I don't see too many people. I do feel overwhelmed. I'm someone that is or gets socially anxious, has anxiety, and New York City definitely like made me like hyper aware of someone also that just there, if there's too much, like my mind, my eyes doesn't know where to focus. It's like, whoa, there's so much. So I really felt that it was like, once I settled in, I was like, oh, it's like I'm vibing with it. And all of a sudden it's like, okay, wait a second. Like, is this going to be my job or my role? Like, is this what the environment and place is this what it's gonna feel like for the, for whatever amount of time, whether that be a year, 2 years, since I'm pursuing or continuously pursuing other, like, more or less, since I'm trying not to divulge too much about my personal life. As you guys know, I prefer to keep my life private in a lot of other aspects. Like, I'm sharing my experiences, but beyond that, I'm like, okay, like, I don't have any other social media platform. That's where, this is where it ends. But I'll keep it real. I'm doing healthcare or studying healthcare on the side, although I did for graduate school, but it was more administrative and related. So this time around, it's more direct patient care related. And yeah, I'm just like, do I want to have to deal with that throughout the course of the program in which, I will eventually have to go into? So those are things to consider. It's like, I'm not willing to compromise my emotional, mental well-being, right, for a few measly dollars, right? And also, let's be honest, people of color are not getting paid enough often to deal with these this other stuff, that like all of, like, whether that be the microaggressions, whether that be the treatment, the poor treatment, the different treatment, we aren't getting paid enough. So do we have to show our solidarity? And no, because I am not in solidarity with racism and ignorance. Yeah, so there's that. It's been hard, and I didn't mention, because I do derail. I take ownership for that. I derail a lot when I'm having conversations, like so many thoughts, so many things I want to include in here. But it's like, when I first got here, as I was mentioning earlier, the position I was working in was on the admin end in education. And the things I heard, and this is something I mentioned also, is just like, these individuals are educating our future, and they're talking like this. They're talking like this, like, as in this area. Naturally, I can't speak for New York City. I'm very proud to say, I'm very proud of what I've seen in New York City, the awareness about issues that exist and things beyond ourselves, because it's not always going to be about ourselves. It's going to be about others, and ensuring that it's, as individuals, we're all thriving. It's not only one group is thriving better or is above others. And I love that. I see, and I feel like in New York City, not all jobs. I did have one job, and I'm like, it was in a clinic. Funny enough, it was in a clinic, and I was just like, I wasn't surprised. It was ran by white management, and I'm like, yeah, unexpected. expected. And I know it's sad because it's like it creates these conclusions and ideas of like, can I trust? Do I trust? Right? And it's led me always to say, no, I don't. Because even me raising a complaint or saying this is happening in this hospital and getting no response tells me enough of where you stand. And there you go. This is why you struggle with retention. People are not staying here. I hardly see any employees at the huge or large hospital that I work at. Hardly see any employees. I probably see like 100 employees throughout the span of, or not 100 employees, like way less, but I'm saying like from what I've just gathered, like passing through rooms, seeing multiple individuals, I feel like 100 employees being maybe max for like a very, very large hospital, that's pretty sad. Or, you know, even a little below 100, that's pretty sad. It seems like it's gotten so understaffed, especially nowadays, and I'm constantly seeing posts of the, I'm just like, no surprise there. No surprise there. When an organization, agency, or employer wants to not treat their employees right, all of their employees right, that tells me enough. And people aren't willing any longer to be abused. That really is what it is. Be abused by these locations and places. There are other opportunities that I can explore. There are other avenues in which I can generate income. There is no limitations as of now. And that's also why I'm like, I'm like, you know, improve yourself as much as possible when it comes to your education, academia, like your skill sets, like foster those, because you're going to become and be more marketable. And that's my advice for the communities of color. But yes, I'm trying to like get back to the story. So when I was working the education position, and I mentioned this in previous videos, so you guys will probably see this or hear the story, but one of the educators asked my colleague, which was a Latina, where she's from, and my colleague responded like, I guess like the area in which she's from here. And then the individual said, no, where are you really from? Oh, I mean, like, where are you from? Where are you from? Because I mean, last time I checked, I know that those that are of white or are white and are of European ancestry, right? Not all the time, but a substantial part of the time, right? And it's also like, even if you're from another region, it's like eventually there was, right, some there is some European ancestry. So let's start there. It's like individuals, like the white community here, doesn't understand that they were once immigrants. Actually, they're the immigrants of immigrants. So it's, and this is something I mentioned in the previous video, like the self-hate even within their community, the lack of wanting to even connect or be seen as of European ancestry. Oh, don't call me immigrant. Don't call me, but your family once was. So what's the problem? You just want to call other people because you can see them as lowly, right? Or less than. But you don't want to acknowledge your own roots, your beginnings, which they underwent. They're harsh beginnings as well. Perhaps not all of them. Naturally, they also benefited from the labor of communities of color, enslaved and all that, and killed, all that. Because when I was looking at how many natives were murdered here in the US, it's outrageous. And it explains why there's an imbalance, why the white community is the majority today, right? And continues to be. So that was just like, oh my gosh, I cannot with this level of stupidity. And what else? There was also another educator. Oh my goodness. Another educator that was like, this, like, you know, America, like essentially saying that, well, let's forget about South America, you know, or other countries within North America. it's, you know, it's the USA. That's the real America. That's the real America. I was just like, I feel like I'm losing brain cells in this place. I kid you not. Every time someone opens their mouth, whether that be at my current position, a job, or a role, or prior ones, I'm just like, I can no longer like deal with this. I'm just like, do I go back to New York City and work there and then come back, you know, weekends to get my mental, you know, or break from, I guess, being around too many people, being around a populated area. Not saying that there isn't less populated areas. I lived in one and I really enjoyed it and loved it in New York City. So, and it offers a bit of everything, but life, I guess, has brought me here. Nonetheless, I have to really take a moment to think, okay, what are my next steps? Where do I want to be here or tolerate this? And who knows, maybe some of you guys are dealing with this or have been dealing with this. And like I mentioned, while I was working at a clinic previously in New York City that was or consisted of predominantly white management, because we have to really hold people accountable, period. My supervisor, my direct supervisor, said that the Latino Hispanic community is lazy. Yet the white community that has farms loves to hire Latino communities, and in many cases, like for example, one of the individuals that I saw within the hospital mentioned that a white racist did not pay them. There we go, right? Taking advantage. Who's really taking advantage? Who really is taking advantage? Who's really taking advantage? So let's take a moment there. Let's take a moment, because these individuals don't get paid much, and yet these people that have privilege, that have the resources, don't even want to give other people that don't look like them the human dignity, right? They don't pay them. They don't care about them. They just, we don't care. We do not care. So who's the bad guy in that case, right? Who really is? Because I feel like a lot of projection has been happening since the beginning of time. And I said it in my previous video. And it's like time to look in the mirror. Really, time to look in the mirror and stop saying it's minority communities and start taking accountability. And I'll leave it at that. All right, take care.